I let her copy my marginal utility curves. Springsteen, still the boss. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. Once again, coming at you with one of my famed movie slash Blu-ray reviews. Today I'm coming at you to review the movie and Blu-ray of April Fool's Day, the one from 1986. And yes, I know this Blu-ray came out 2 years ago. I got it 2 years ago, but for whatever reason I didn't feel like making a review, talking about it until now. I don't know what the hell happened last year or even the year before, honestly, but whatever. I guess, April 1st comes and goes, and I'm like, oh, it's too late to talk about it. You know me, just being an anal bastard. I guess every time like April 1st comes and goes, I'm like, oh, I missed a chance to talk about it. So I don't know, whatever. 2 years later, after the release of this Blu-ray, I'm going to talk about the Blu-ray. Initially, I was just going to talk about the Blu-ray only because it's funny because 10 years ago, actually, we did, both Matt and I, the guy I started this review channel with, 10 years ago, we actually reviewed this movie. And I actually watched that again, and I'm like, wow, for as short as that review is, I really get in basically a lot of good points, and I don't know if I can really top that review, or at least the part that I did. And but I'm like, you know what, since I'm doing a review of the Blu-ray, I might as well talk 10 years later about my feelings about the movie and just share maybe some extra anecdotes or this and that. So that is what I'm going to be doing. Talk about the movie first, and then I'll talk about the Blu-ray release from 2 years ago. My history with April Fool's Day goes all the way back to 30 years ago. I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was probably sometime around this time in 1992. They played this movie on TV, and I remember that was that was right around that time I had just gotten my very first hi-fi stereo VCR, and I recorded April Fool's Day off of TV, and I remember being excited, like, because I can't remember if it showed in the paper if it was stereo or not. I think it did, but I can't remember if it even worked. I don't even know if I successfully captured this movie off TV on the VCR in stereo or not. But I remember being excited to, like, even though it was on TV, still to see for the first time April Fool's Day, and I actually really liked it. I can still remember. See, back in the day, 30 years ago in '92. I don't know if it's the same way. I don't watch TV or look at TV, guides or anything like that anymore. But I can still remember, like, I don't know if it was a local critic, or I can still remember a blurb, like a brief synopsis, like under the movie in the TV guide thing or the Sunday paper we'd get, saying, like, college kids, eat beans and hot dogs and die in this movie or something. And I think they also give maybe a star rating or something. I can't remember what the star rating was, but I can still remember, obviously 30 years later, that little synopsis: eat hot dogs, beans, and die, or something like that. And I don't think the person who left that little spiel or synopsis was very favorable to the movie, and probably left, like, maybe 2 out of 5 stars or something like that. I can't remember the stars, but that's my first experience with April Fool's Day. I was actually recording it off TV, and honestly, because of the movie's basically more or less lack of gore, I mean, you can pretty much watch this on TV and see it more or less the same way that you saw it in the theater or home video, the R-rated version. Obviously, the stuff that's going to be cut out is the swear words and the profanity or whatever. I can remember my uncle must have watched it at the same time at his house. I can remember, when I saw him sometime later, weeks or something like that, him mentioning watching April Fool's Day and how depraved it was, or he was older than I think like 5 years older than my dad or whatever. But I think he was talking about, like, the heads in the whatchamacallit, the well or whatever. And I don't know, he probably didn't watch the whole thing, because if he had, he would have known that the depravity of the heads in the well, and even in the movie, wasn't even real either. But obviously, having said that, as they say, I do feel like I should let everyone know that this will be a spoiler review containing spoilers. So if you've never seen this movie, you don't want to be spoiled, obviously click off this review and watch it after you've seen it. Or if you don't give a shit if you're gonna be spoiled, and keep watching by all means. But obviously, as I described 10 years ago when we reviewed this for the very first time, this movie's about this character, Muffy St. John, this I think more or less college-aged girl, having just inherited this huge freaking like mansion on this island from when her mom died. I think the mom and dad may have been divorced, and maybe the dad lives somewhere else, and this was mom's house. Maybe she lived there when she wasn't at school and stuff, and mom's died, and she's, you know, she concocts this plan to on the April Fool's Day weekend invite some of her friends and stuff and colleagues or schoolmates or whatever to basically play this prank on them. Her plans to try to keep the house, you know, because there's a lot of expenses, namely, you know, property tax and who knows, you know, upkeep and who knows what the hell else. I'm sure it's very expensive to have this property that's featured in the movie. Incidentally, the property that's featured in the movie is really, really cool. I think this movie was made in Canada, but I've always loved the location and the kind of the overall feel of the house and the property in this movie, and very much with like the original Friday the 13th. It's got a very, because you have to be like ferry boated to this location, it has a very, you know, a huge sense of just being isolated, and so like, oh my god, you know, like one of the other characters mentions later on in the movie, you know, she's got to pretty much swim back to the mainland to get the hell off the island. So that aspect of the movie really adds to the kind of just the, you know, whatever, we're in the middle of nowhere and we can't really get help necessarily kind of situation, or we can't escape this area if we need to easily, you know, without a boat or, you know, whatever. So this character, Muffy St. John, basically invites a bunch of her college-age friends over for the weekend, and it's just going to just be like a getaway weekend or whatever, and obviously there's this the biggest thing about this movie is just if you've seen my review from 10 years ago, you already know, but if you haven't, I'll tell you right now, is the characters. The characters in this movie is more or less a comedy. As a matter of fact, I can remember seeing this title on VHS in the video stores, and on one of these mom and pop video stores it was actually in the comedy section, and for good reason, because I do feel like, you know, actually, you know, this is almost more of a comedy than it really is a horror movie, and just obviously by the way the movie ends up turning out, I mean, that could definitely be said that it's like a comedy with maybe horror elements more than a horror movie with comedy elements. But I love the characters, how the characters are written, and I love the actors, all the performers and actors and actresses they got to fill the roles. You've got that guy who played Biff in the Back to the Future movies, and Clayton, I still don't know how, 10 years later I still don't know how to pronounce his last name, Clayton Rohner, or however the hell you pronounce these last names, I tell you. He's really funny in this movie, and his girlfriend in this movie is like a Sarah, you know, you swear it's like Sarah Michelle Gellar was cloned off, you know, off of this girl who plays his girlfriend in this movie. But I mean, you just watch, it's funny how you just watch this movie. Like if you were to show this to someone who was like maybe a, you know, younger Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, or I Know What You Did Last Summer, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar fan, you'd be like, oh my god, that's got to be like her mom or aunt or something, because it's just like a spitting image, you know, that between Sarah Michelle Gellar and this woman in April Fool's Day. But I mean, all of the characters, I mean, I like pretty much all the characters. Obviously the character of Nan is a little, you know, not a whole lot of character there or whatever, but everyone else really has their own, like, you know, eccentricities, and just really kind of like, you know, Friday the 13th, the final chapter for me. That's a huge part of that movie, is just the goofy, quirky, offbeat characters as well. But, you know, I'd almost say this movie takes it to you know, another level, really, and just the characters and all of the hijinks and stuff they get into before, you know, stuff starts, you know, going bad and people start disappearing and stuff is really fun. And like I said 10 years ago, that's, you know, kind of one of my big complaints with this movie is the characters are so fun and so well written that, you know, pretty much for me, like the first third of the movie is my favorite part. Once characters start, you know, disappearing and quote unquote dying off, then the movie slowly becomes less and less interesting, because for me, what's most interesting about this movie is the characters. So when the characters start, you know, disappearing, you've got less, you know, the characters to entertain you or interest you on screen. It's just like, oh, it really becomes, I'm talking about like on repeat viewings, you know, it becomes less and less. And obviously, since you know what happens with this movie, if you've seen it over and over again, it you know, as the movie wears on, it becomes kind of less and less interesting, unfortunately. But they all go to the, Buffy St. John's house, or Muffy St. John's house for this celebration and this and that. And like I say, all the stuff is really fun until, like, oh, there's this accident too that obviously there's like a prank on the ferry they do with this, the Biff character and the guy who plays his buddy doing this knife throwing contest, which they end up doing this thing where it looks like a guy gets stabbed in the stomach with a knife, and it's like an April Fool's prank. And then this one guy jumps in, a couple guys jump in to help him, and only to see that it's a prank. And one of the guys is like the ferryman's assistant or whatever. He's just like, oh, I'll throw the rope. I'll throw the rope over the thing from here, and he ends up getting like injured where it looks like, by the ferry, he looks like he got part of his face, his one eyeball's hanging out and stuff. So that looked like an actual real thing that happened as a result of an April Fool's Day prank. So as a result, the kind of the other guy who was in on it with the Biff character, he's not Biff in this movie, the guy, as Thomas F. Wilson, I want to say, played Biff. That character and the other guy who was in on it with him kind of feels bad for the rest of the movie. Well, not the rest of the movie, the rest of his time in the movie because of that. And that character, it's kind of a bummer because I really like the character of Skip, and he's got so little time in this movie, and it's just like, I like the character of Skip and I like the guy who plays Skip. It's just, that's what I mean about this movie. It's like the characters, it's like a slasher movie with characters that are so fun and entertaining and fun to be around or fun to watch, that it's like when they start disappearing, it's like, God damn it, I was enjoying that character. So I guess to the movie's credit, it's like a slasher movie or, quote-unquote horror movie that has really, in my opinion, entertaining and fun characters, and you're actually more, instead of like, a normal slasher movie where maybe you've got deplorable characters or characters you want to see die, and you have fun watching that happen. It's like as characters die or disappear in this movie, it's like, God damn it, that guy was fun, I liked him. And honestly, every time I watch it, it's like, God, even Thomas F. Wilson kind of disappears really early on. It's not really a very long movie. I think it's like 85 minutes long, maybe 80 minutes, if you're not including the opening and closing credits. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said 10 years ago, if you're looking for like, big thing, even at this time, there's been like 5, I think, at this point, Friday the 13th movies when this movie came out or something. And even at this point, I mean, obviously, one thing a lot of people probably went to these movies for was the kills and to see creative kills and stuff like that. Obviously, because of this movie's, what ends up happening with the movie, which is, it's all just a bunch of fake bullshit. Obviously, because of that fact, you're not seeing on-screen kills happen. You're just seeing people like react to something like, oh, that we're not seeing, and then they'll do a cutaway to the next scene. So basically, what ends up happening is everyone who kind of dies or, quote-unquote dies throughout the course of this movie, as the viewers watching it, it looks like people are dying one by one like any normal, Friday the 13th movie. It turns out that, there's like, just like with so many Friday the 13th movies, and, you just end up with Amy Steele and this other guy who'd go on to be in Leprechaun, some years later. Who are the last two, just like with Friday 13th part. When the Friday 13th got into 2 and 3 and 4 and stuff like that, it seems like there's always like even 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, it seems like all of the 80s Friday 13th movies after 1 would always have like a guy and a girl where the survivors, and they're maybe a romantic couple or whatever. It's the same thing with this movie, of course. And I don't have a problem. I'm not saying I have a problem with it. I'm just saying that towards the end of the movie, it's reduced to Amy Steele and her character's boyfriend in this movie, and they're doing this and that, trying to escape on the boat and figure out how to do this and that. And throughout the course of the movie, like, oh my God, because when Muffy, the next day after the celebrations and stuff, Muffy really seemed to act weird. Like, why is Muffy acting so weird and dressing so weird? So like, they'll throughout the course of the movie, after everyone disappears and stuff, towards the end of the movie, they're like discovering all these clues, like a photo of twins, and then they're seeing this thing in the basement in chalk, like Muffy and Buffy, and like certain years with the heights or whatever the hell it is and stuff. So they kind of deduce based on all these clues they're coming across that that Muffy's got a twin sister, Buffy, and they figure that then they like find, you know, Muffy's severed head and stuff, and they figure, oh my God, and Buffy was in the nut house. She escaped, came back, killed Muffy. Did I say Buffy? Buffy was in the nut house, came back and killed Muffy, and is now trying to kill all these people, but you know, this and that and stuff like that, until of course Amy Steele's chased into this room where she sees all the characters that she had thought had been killed just standing there kind of just doing whatever, acting all whatever, and then it's revealed at that point that this whole movie is just a frickin' joke. And obviously a lot of people might have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, I showed my mom the Blu-ray just a couple days ago. I think it was probably the first time she ever saw it, and she was kind of enjoying the beginning with the humor and the comedy, and I think it was probably the first time she ever saw Biff in a different role and stuff. And then when the movie was over, she's like, well, that wasn't very good. And you know, I mean, it's kind of disappointing, you know, but you know, it just proves my point that the way this movie ends up turning out isn't going to be, you know, for everyone. I think it's the exact right thing to do, and you know, to do it any other way, where you know, it would just be wrong. And you know, obviously, I mean, it's kind of obvious that anyone should expect this kind of ending from this movie, where the whole thing is basically fake, and the whole reason the Muffy character did it was because she has ideas to turn, you know, this property on this island into like a country inn that features like a whodunit scenario. So she's gonna, you know, basically, you know, she has to have some substantial income to basically be able to keep the property. So her plan is to turn it into a business and like a whodunit weekend kind of a thing. So she used her friends on the April Fool's Day weekend or whatever to test it out on. And I think the scenario is extremely competent, and I think to do an April Fool's Day movie any other way, like horror movie, would just obviously not make sense. It makes perfect sense that the whole thing is just a big joke on the audience. It's really cool how they put in, like at the very beginning on the ferry and stuff, some, you know, April Fool's Day jokes that the characters do to each other, and even further, even beyond the ferry, you know, like you've got the dribble cups and the, you know, the whoopee cushion and the collapsing chair, and you know, all the, you know, the spraying nozzle that sprays her, and you know, the doorknob and all kinds of stuff. So the, you know, the first third of the movie or whatever is full of all kinds of April Fool's Day gags and stuff like that. So you have that stuff throughout the movie, and then you think as people are disappearing that, well, these, you know, the people are disappearing for real, and it's kind of this mystery, and people are getting, you know, kind of like, you know, clues and stuff like that are personal, that relate personally to their lives and stuff. So it's kind of like, oh, what's going on? You know, it's kind of a mystery, kind of like, I think around the same time, you know, Paramount also put out the movie version of that board game, you know, Clue, and I saw that movie in the theater, I'm happy to say, and have loved the movie Clue ever since I saw it, and I'm pretty sure I've reviewed Clue on this channel, I would imagine, but yeah, I mean, the movie kind of plays like a mystery, like whodunit, figure it out kind of thing, and it turns out to all be just a bunch of bullcrap. And you know, to do this movie any other way would just not make sense in my opinion. So, you know, I absolutely love the movie for what it was, and you know, for what it is rather, and I think it did the right thing in that regard. And the one thing that I complained about 10 years ago, and I feel the exact same way about, is the fact that, you know, after the, you know, all the festivities and stuff, that kind of more reserved, you know, nerdy character of you know, Nan or whatever ends up, you know, there ends up being the scene where the you know, there's big festivities, and you know, they pull out the wine and they all get drunk. Not all of them, not Nan and the one guy, the frickin' ferryman guy, but everyone else, you know, gets all drunk and stuff that night after the prank's been revealed. And there's this kind of spooky scene at the very end where you know, Muffy comes into her room, and you know, there's this Jack in the Box on the bed. And I forgot to mention that earlier at the very beginning of the movie. It's something that's also revealed is, you know, her, you know, getting probably her as a young child during the opening credits, getting a Jack in the Box for her birthday. And just like I said 10 years ago in my review, I think it's just some kind of throwaway point that possibly this character of Muffy was born on April 1st, possibly, or whatever. But it's never really alluded to, exactly. But it's possible that the character, a viewer can deduce that maybe this character was born on April 1st, because the opening credits revolve around a flashback to when she was a little girl getting this Jack-in-the-Box that ends up popping out and being a monster. So she probably was born, on April 1st, and, all the adults played this prank on her. So at the end of the movie, she sees this Jack-in-the-Box on her bed, and she's like, oh my gosh, and there's this creepy scene where it's like getting creepy, and she's like, dun, 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 dun. And it's just like pop, you see it pop, you know that it opens, but then it cuts to like someone grabbing her head, pulling her head back, and like apparently slitting her throat, and you're like, oh my god, this Nan character who was kind of upset about her over that one thing, that tape, if you know what I mean. The only people that seen it's going to understand what I mean, the tape recording that she left in her room or whatever. Maybe she, took the, joke a little too far, and Nan actually is going to kill her over it, and maybe, doing the prank on everyone or whatever. Maybe Nan's a little unbalanced. But just moments later, after her throat slit and she's like, we just see the character of Nan, like, show the fake knife with the bulb, the blood pump, and this and that, and she's like, April Fools, and it's just like, I don't, so, in my opinion, like I said 10 years ago, that's kind of like one too many pranks, in my opinion. And if you're going to do it, maybe it would have been cooler to actually just have had the character actually kill her for real, end the movie like that. Kill her because she's unhinged after what happened with her boyfriend, and what ordeal that she had to go through because of whatever unsafe sex, if you will, and maybe that kind of unhinged the character of Nan. And I thought maybe that would have been cooler to just have her slit her throat for real, and just have Nan like look at the camera like, April Fools, and just like be a real psycho, and just cut to black, did it, too bad you're crazy. One could only assume they probably filmed, all kinds of different versions. As a matter of fact, I can remember, I haven't seen the interviews and stuff since 2 years ago, so I can't remember them, but I can remember, I think, all kinds of possible alternate endings or stuff being either discussed and or filmed or something. So I think that if you're going to do that last fake out thing where the throat gets slit, and have her throat get slit for real, because for me it was just like one too many pranks, and it's just like it kind of rolls your eyes. I can understand my mom's disdain if it was for that. Like, I don't think she liked the fact that the whole movie was fake, but I just feel like that one last moment where the throat slit being fake is just like one too many. But just like with 10 years ago, I still stand by my 3 stars out of 4 stars for April Fool's Day. It's a movie that, in my opinion, the first third or the first half is much more entertaining than the last half, because all the characters are disappearing throughout the course of the last half, and it's just like the characters for me are really what makes the movie fun. But alas, whatever, life goes on. Definitely a movie I hold in really high regard, and most oftentimes than not, especially now since the Blu-ray is released and come out a couple of years ago, I generally watch this movie at least once around this time of year, just being an anal, psycho, huge movie fanatic bastard. Definitely a movie I recommend, especially now that it's on a glorious Blu-ray release, which I can definitely talk about now. Unfortunately, as I said, I haven't seen the special features for a couple years, but whatever. I feel like I didn't want to watch them just to talk about them, so I'm not going to watch the special features just to talk about them. But here's the newly commissioned cover art for the Scream Factory release of April Fool's Day from 2 years ago. And honestly, as far as newly commissioned cover art goes, I do think it's like some of the best newly commissioned cover art that I've really ever seen. I like how they take the whole motif of like the dolls that are used in the movie and stuff, and put the girl and the severed heads in the wine glass, and I really like the newly commissioned cover art, honestly, not as much as the original poster art, but I've definitely seen, I think it's some of the most creative newly commissioned cover art that I've seen for, special edition Blu-ray release of an older film. Taking a look at the special features here, we've got new interviews with director Fred Walton, actress Deborah Goodrich Royce, and Clayton, like I say, these last names I tell you, Rohner, cinematographer Charles Minsky, and composer Charles Bernstein, theatrical trailer and TV spots. Now, since I haven't seen the special features for 2 years, unfortunately this part of the review is going to be a little lazy. Can't exactly remember so much about them, but I remember, Clayton Rohner, obviously in addition to like Thomas F. Wilson, are a couple of my favorite performers in the movie, so it was really fun to see an interview with him. And the actress that is interviewed was the woman who played his girlfriend in the movie, the kind of the Sarah Michelle Gellar look-alike. So seeing, hearing from those two was kind of fun, I would imagine. I can't remember, but Clayton Rohner is just kind of a fun guy and stuff like that. So hearing from them was interesting. Unfortunately, this will be the kind of the lazy aspect of this review. I can't really remember much about the special features other than that, but as far as the video quality of this Blu-ray release goes, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's a bummer that it took so long for this movie to come out on Blu-ray. But I don't know anything about this scan or how old it is or anything like that, but it really plays like it's just a brand new frickin' spankin' scan. It looks absolutely beautiful, and this movie's never looked better. Obviously, years and years ago, Paramount put out a DVD. It was the first time it was really ever available in widescreen. At the time, that was huge to me because, up until then I'd only seen the pan and scan on a home video. So the DVD widescreen that came out a long time ago was obviously amazing at the time. But this Blu-ray really ups the ante, and not only is it the widescreen, full widescreen version, but the sharpness, the clarity, and the detail, and even the colors are absolutely striking and beautiful in this movie. Just like with the DVD that came out way back when, this Blu-ray also features a 5.1 surround audio mix, which actually, just like with the DVD that came out a long time ago, actually has a relatively strong and really great 5.1 surround mix. And I really like the ambient, nighttime critter, like bugs, nighttime noises and stuff that are in this movie, and really works in 5.1 really well and stuff. And that one bit where that one character, Skip, throws the wine bottle or whatever it is, and you hear it go kaplunk over there, or is it over there? I can't tell where I am I think it's over on this side of the screen. It goes kaplunk, over on your right speaker or whatever. This is, for being a movie, it is interesting that they even back then shot this in that widescreen and even released it, because this movie was released, produced and released in stereo. So it was always a really good, a really good sounding movie, and with a lot of great stereo surround effects and stuff. So obviously the 5.1 mix is just, opens the sound stage up even more. And one thing that was kind of talked about when this Blu-ray came out back 2 years ago is that, and I can vouch for this, and this is true, is like I think it's got 2 English tracks. I think it's got one that's just like kind of stereo surround, and the other one's 5.1. And I can't remember which one is which, but I remember it might be the 5.1. That there's some, the range between like some of the dialogue and some of the sound effects, like it's really weird. Like the infamous, when that one character unzips his pants, it's like this zip is super loud, and there's some dialogue that's like really quiet. So I can't remember if that's I think it's the 5.1 mix maybe that has that greater range of like too much of a range of quiet and loud stuff. So that's the kind of I don't know if that was a part of the movie before this Blu-ray release. I can't really remember, or if this Blu-ray release it makes that, enhance, kind of amplifies that problem that may have already been there. I'm not sure, but it seems to me like one of the audio tracks doesn't have that problem as much as one of the other audio tracks. I can't remember at this point which is which, but even if it is the 5.1 track, it's really not that big a deal. There's just some dialogue that the Muffy/Buffy character gives that's like really, and maybe some other people as well, if they're saying it not very loud, like it's really quiet. If you're just listening to the movie at the normal volume, it's like really quiet, and it's just kind of like one of those things that's like, well, that's a bummer. But and honestly, I don't remember the movie necessarily being that way until this Blu-ray release. But I guess whatever. I mean, there's you know, the image is greatly improved. Perhaps with this release, maybe the audio is a little, you know, disimproved or whatever. But I mean, you know, I guess if you've got your remote handy, you can, you know, if you've seen the movie, if you know the movie kind of by heart like I do, you know what all the the you know, the actors are saying, even if you can't really hear the lines in certain scenes or whatever. Obviously, it's kind of a bummer situation, but life goes on at the end of the day. And as is the case with so many titles like this, you've got a reversible cover art option. You've got this newly commissioned cover art that it comes with. And mine, I got the slipcover that came with mine. I'm not sure if they're still shipping with slip covers or not, but at any rate, you get for this particular release, you get this newly commissioned cover art, or this cover art, which is obviously the original theatrical poster artwork and also the artwork that was used for the VHS release of the film. Obviously, I, you know, have this artwork featured under here, under the slipcover, so you get the best of both worlds. When the slipcover's on, it's newly commissioned. When you take the slipcover off, it's the original artwork, which I prefer. So it's really cool when they have those options. Obviously, the newly commissioned artwork to kind of jazz up and, you know, the, you know, kind of, you know, set the I guess really why they do them newly commissioned artwork is just to set the, you know, their Blu-ray special edition release apart from anything else that has existed before, so you know, you can tell that it's the certain version compared to any old version or whatever. But I don't think any version, at least in North America, that's been on DVD. I can't remember if the DVD, I don't think it had this cover. I can't even remember anymore. But obviously I'm very appreciative whenever they include the original theatrical poster art, because that's the artwork I, more oftentimes than not, would just as soon have. Taking a look at the disc itself, obviously it utilizes the newly commissioned cover artwork. Looks pretty cool. Guess that pretty much does it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.